Hey, Guy Powell here, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. If you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the recently released book, The Post-COVID Marketing Machine, and now working on a new book called The AI Marketing Machine, and hope to have that out in about the first quarter. And if you'd like to find out more information, please go to marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today I'm interviewing Andrei Oprisan and Sam Mallikarjunan with Agent.ai, and just had a very interesting conversation before we came on, and looking forward to hearing more about what their insights are. But before we do that, let me give you an idea of who both Andrei and Sam are. Andrei is a technology leader with over 15 years experience in software engineering, AI, and machine learning. He's held key leadership roles at top companies like Wayfair, Liberty Mutual, and HubSpot, and he co-founded OneScreen.ai, and he is currently helping transform customer service through AI-driven solutions with Agent.ai. And today we're going to hear more about his insights on the future of AI and how it's revolutionizing sales and marketing. Now, Sam Mallikarjunan, he is the growth lead at Agent.ai, where he helps drive the development and adoption of AI-driven solutions to enhance customer service and sales. With a deep background in growth strategy, Sam previously led innovative initiatives at companies like HubSpot, Labs, and Flock.com. He's also a former professor at Harvard University and co-author of Inbound Commerce, How to Sell Better Than Amazon. And definitely excited to hear Sam's insights on how AI is going to help us drive sales and drive marketing better for the future of business. So welcome, Andrei. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, how did you guys get involved in AI and marketing? What's your backstory there?
It's quite a small world, actually. I was at HubSpot in the very early days, the roughly 150-ish people when I joined. I didn't have a college degree or anything. I built a site called hiremehubspot.com and ran ads targeting their employees to register for the webinar on why you should hire me. Fast forward a few years, Dharmesh Shah, who's the co-founder of HubSpot, was running a side project called inbound.org and needed somebody from inside the company to help him. It turns out Dharmesh was just like paying a bunch of people to help him build this community that he wanted to build. And so that's how I met Andrei. Dharmesh was paying Andrei to help him build this community. And so we created HubSpot Labs, where Andrei, as the engineering lead, myself as the growth lead, worked directly with Dharmesh to try a bunch of things. Some that you've heard of, like the launch of the CRM tools and the HubSpot community, some that you probably have never heard of because they were terrible ideas, like freestockphotos.org and some of the other stuff that we did. And then several years later, actually, after Andre and I exited our last startup, I get an email from Dharmesh saying, hey, I'm working with Andre again on Agent.ai. And now here we are. So Dharmesh launched Agent.ai at HubSpot's Inbound conference in September, which, by the way, Andre, next time, hopefully I get more notice. I get an email in June saying, hey, can we have 100,000 weekly active users by September? I don't be at work.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Andrei?
Yes, I'm an engineer, classically trained, graduate studies in machine learning. So I've done some level of AI throughout my career, but I've mostly built technology systems and teams at scale for e-commerce, for marketing, for sales. And there's always some level of automation, how you think about the data, how do you build algorithms that can increasingly make decisions, often with limited human input. And again, more recently, after we both exited our last company, OneScreen.ai, I started working with Dharmesh on a fun sort of project, nights and weekends sort of thing. And that escalated quickly. We started to really build out a user base, wanted to build out a community and really make it a real project, a real company, and something that is going to create value in the ecosystem. As we think about AI evolving very quickly, we've all seen what the last 2 years have looked like. Before that, ChatGPT didn't even really exist publicly, at least. And so, what will the next 2 years? What about the next 5 years? What will that bring? And we don't really know, but we believe agentic AI is going to be a big part of that. We believe that creating some kind of marketplace for builders, for folks who both enthusiasts and professionals who are going to be building out some of these AI tools, they're going to need to get traction in some way, right? They're going to look for users, for customers, for revenue. And we love marketplaces and that idea of creating as little friction as possible, creating as low of a barrier to entry, and letting those market efficiencies drive out what the future of AI should look like by
Yeah,
just
very
letting the best
interesting.
winners win out.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're here doing this.
Yeah, very interesting. So now tell us about Agent.ai. From what you told me so far, it really sounds very interesting to help both B2B and consumer companies. But tell me a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we're attacking the problem from two different angles. One is we want to democratize the ability to build and customize your own AI agents. That's how Dharmesh really got me on this. He made the statement that like everybody in the room at Inbound, all 30,000 or so people, are gonna use AI agents in the next year. It's not really controversial. Saying everybody in the room is gonna build their own AI agents in the next year was pretty controversial. And most of the other companies respect for Salesforce, Microsoft, what those folks are doing, but they're building agent studios for the enterprise. So they're expensive, they're harder to use, require specialized skills, et cetera. We want everybody to be able to build and customize their own agents. That also creates a new problem, though, which is the discoverability of agents. So if you go to there's an AI for that.com or something like that, it's like 10,000, 15,000 agents already in most of these directories. And even more if you split them out by the actual tasks that they're capable of doing. And so the marketplace networked aspect of this is, can we make it so that you can use Agent.ai and its jobs to know you really well, your job, company, competitors, work preferences, et cetera. And then based on what you're trying to do, it will help you decide which AI agents to use from the marketplace and then feed them the appropriate context to maximize the effectiveness. So make it easy to build and customize your own AI agents, and then make it easy to use other ones that other people have built.
Yeah, fantastic. It's interesting, and it almost sounds like it's a game changer for modern business in how we can, from a sales and marketing perspective, go to market and be very different from the competition, hopefully better than the competition, and hopefully be able to grow faster than the competition. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, some subset of the listeners probably remember the world before the WYSIWYG CMS, right? Where we actually had to code HTML, CSS, and stuff like build our own websites. Like when I was in college, that's how I made money, was building
Yep.
websites for people who didn't know how to do it. The WYSIWYG CMS made it so that non-technical people could be part of the internet. They could create their own websites. Marketers didn't have to talk to IT. The same thing's happening with agentic AI and AI studios and AI builders. Same thing that we want to do is, can we do for the future of the AI agentic internet what the WYSIWYG CMS did for the kind of internet of content, which is make it accessible to everyone. So as large a paradigm shift as, now this is going to sound hyperbolic, but as large a paradigm shift as the internet was for marketing, AI is going to be on a similar scale.
Yeah, I definitely see that as well. It's like the spreadsheet for accountants is AI for marketing, and definitely a total game shift. And I think everybody is seeing that. How about you, Andre? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that the change is going to be even bigger. I think that even the way we think about the work itself and the nature of work, I think there's all sorts of apocalyptic views into that. I'm actually a lot more optimistic. I think it's only going to supercharge what we can do on a daily basis. I think every job is going to evolve. If you are doing so many manual things, maybe you're responding to emails all day, you're doing some analysis of some kind, you're logging into the system, you're getting something from there, you're going to this other place, maybe you're doing customer service or you're doing order management and following up with vendors. All of that, much of that is going to get much richer context and really help you do your job a lot better, right? Not having to look in 5 different places and all these different systems that are going to talk to each other. Agentic AI will make it that much easier to connect those as data sources, to understand all the repetitive tasks that you're doing, and then help you unlock new ways of thinking about that kind of work to optimize the end goal. And again, I think a lot of the kind of work that most of us do on a daily basis is fairly defined in terms of workflows and repetitive tasks and context that can really be understood very well by AI, connecting with some of these data sources and then give you those insights and those answers much faster so that you can focus on unlocking value that you otherwise wouldn't, or you wouldn't have time for, frankly,
Yeah.
or you're still expected to do. But again, now you're shortchanging what could really be that growth engine for something fairly trivial, short-term investment versus that long-term. And I actually think it's going to help many job families think a lot more long-term in terms of what are we doing and why are we even doing it, and how can we create more value. Some of that
Yeah, that's
change is going to
yeah.
be, yeah, I think uncomfortable, but part of it, I think, is that learning journey. And how do we do a better job ourselves? And how do we open ourselves to that possibility through that learning, which I think AI
Yeah,
really
yeah,
is a good.
I like your point about the looking at it, what is it going to be in 3 years or 5 years, and then really designing for it today and using that as your guide. It's so easy to get stuck in, I got to get this thing done today, but in reality, what I really want to be able to do is I want to be able to do that thing 3 years from now, and focusing in on that is definitely a mind shift. Right now, as I've been interviewing both vendors and agencies and marketers on the brand side, the it I don't think they're getting there. I think they are seeing it as what is the task I have to automate today, not as what should the task look like 3 years from now, given the even that's I really like that point. How do you see this balance of automation and human touch now in customer interactions? It's definitely going to be different. What do you see there, Andre?
Yeah, I still think we're going to have a great amount of human supervision. I think you need that to really be able to make sure we have the right kinds of outcomes. And then I think it's understanding when do we let what go, and what are we comfortable with. Just like any other risk management framework, you need to think about how do we balance getting something cheap and fast versus something not as cheap but maybe higher quality, right? Where we really need that human interaction. And are we actually creating any value for anyone through those interactions, or are we just creating bottlenecks? And again, having very honest sort of analysis and set of conversations about what that looks like today, what that should look like ideally, and how do we get there. I actually think there's even more jobs for humans to do, in particular because we're, from a technical standpoint, we're reaching limits in terms of how much data is even out there to be able to train AI agents and these large language models. We've already ingested all human knowledge, every conversation, every book, every Reddit, everything has already been ingested as of last year. And at this point, we're creating, particularly relevant to marketing. A lot of sites are mainly or mostly or somewhat AI generated. So as we're getting this feedback loop of AI is generating more content, we're then using that content to train AI again. And there's actually a paradox here where the AI is going to get worse because of that, because you don't have unique new thinking, right? Because AIs don't really think, they simulate thinking. They simulate how might you answer that question given all human knowledge. And to most of us, that looks like creative thinking, but it's actually not. It's just a probabilistic answer for a given type of question and constraint universe. But as we generate more AI content, it's going to become more challenging to get that sort of unique data out there. And I think those are going to be really important jobs for humans to continue to do. How do we create more unique content, more art, more music, more writing that we can then feed back as signals into these systems, and whatever that art and music and the equivalent sort of writing may need to look like for the various domains.
Yeah, absolutely. And because let's say 6 months ago or whenever the first big push from ChatGPT took place, most, if not all, of the content was human generated. And now, whatever the percentage is of AI generated and versus human generated, and then maybe 6 months from now or 12 months from now, even more and more is going to be AI generated. And the AI generated is probabilistic. It's not really unique or necessarily, it is unique and it is certainly creative, but it's not the same kind of unique and creative that you'd have on the human side. What do you think about that, Sam?
I think marketers in particular and salespeople, we're being very lazy in terms of how we're thinking about AI. Because it's how do we spend less time sending emails? How do we write more blog articles faster? It's a lot of the stuff that we're already doing, a combination of laziness and fear, are leading us to just use AI to replace the tasks that we already do. For me, what's far more exciting is the story of the last kind of 50 years of professional life has been empowerment and independence. How can an individual person be less constrained by having to work with a bunch of other people and processes? In case the listeners can't tell, Andre is the like smart technical engineering one. I'm the like more fun cigar smoking, scotch drinking economics one. And I still remember the moment it blew my mind. It was a couple months ago. I, for the entire time I've known Andre, over a decade, if I needed to do anything more complicated than like CSS, maybe like JavaScript, I had to go bother him. If I wanted to build a drunken spelling bee game for my local pub, Andre had to help me. Now I was able to build like a chess coaching AI agent that looks at all the stuff I'm supposed to be doing every week. It quizzes me, assesses my strengths. And it's never going to be as good an engineer as Andre is. It's never going to be as good at economics as I am. But it's given all of us this T-shaped superpower. So sales reps can do data analytics and design, and coders can do economics analysis. And not as good as an actual professional, but it's given all of us a much greater range of the ability to do mediocre work. And I think that's what's most interesting to me is like it allows us to like focus on the value created by our hyper specialization and allows Andre to focus on things that are more interesting to him than helping Sam with drunken spelling bee games, and allows me the ability to do things that I never had the ability to do. My favorite story for this actually is that my local pub, they were feeding ChatGPT a list of all the ingredients that they wanted to get rid of, having it come up with recipes, come up with names, and then putting it on the menu. So this is a group of people who can't change the PDF on their website for people to download their QR code without me helping them. But they were able to do like artificial intelligence inventory optimization that would make Amazon proud. And they're just like turning over inventory really fast. I think that for me was another like watershed moment when I saw people who can't log into their Squarespace account and update their website without me doing just some of the most impressive. They didn't know that's what they were doing, but that's the power of these kind of conversational and language
Yeah.
model interfaces. It's just say what you want to do. It does it for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and it is very impressive. And one thing I've even started to do is I have an idea of what I want to do, and I'd say to Chat GPT, write me the prompt to do what I want to do. And so it'll actually write you the prompt and get you past that. But I do have to take a slight tangent there. I'm a Scotch guy as well. Whenever I hear somebody else talking about Scotch, we're going to have a chat offline on that. But fantastic. This is going to, and it already has had an enormous impact on sales and marketing. So what do you see sales and marketing looking like in 3 years?
I think the immediate inclination is going to be to use AI to be, again, mediocre at scale. So LinkedIn is just one giant exact same feed of everybody else using AI to be thought leadery, spicy takes, and everything else like that. Outbound emails, I don't even read messages anymore. SEO has been totally trashed between one, the advent of generative search results. So the search engines aren't sending traffic to you. And then two, just the huge volume of content that people are being created. But my favorite story in terms of how it's going to impact us, I have a friend who, communication, learning disabilities issues. And a few weeks ago, I was texting with him, and I've just used enough AI that unless you tell it to speak in a certain way, I can tell when it's AI. And I was asking him, like, are you using AI to write your text messages to me? And he said, yes, he is. He's using it to be more cognizant of how he's using my time and the other people that he talks to by having it help him be more concise and clear and organize his thoughts. And I know that was a really great story for me is you can either use AI to be mediocre at scale, because that is the definition of what AI is good at. It's trained on a bunch of observations and does things at an average level. Or you can use it both the free time and the ability to have like a mirror that's not just you and your own perspective to be better at communicating and more thoughtful about how you're using people's time. I don't want to see another spicy take on LinkedIn. Please stop posting that.
How about you, Andre?
Yeah, I think Walt said this very well. I don't have very much to add there besides the fact that I think from a marketing and sales standpoint, whatever we're doing today with some of this automation, imagine a world where that cost, which today is fairly high if you wanted to do this stuff at scale, imagine that going to zero, which essentially is getting roughly 5 to 10 times a year cheaper. Extrapolate that for a number of years, and all those emails that you're getting that are automated, all those sales messages, they're going to improve, but I think we're also going to potentially get more of them if it's just easier to do, if they're even more personalized, if the algorithms continue to improve, you can tailor them to only Sam and what Sam will respond to. Maybe the catch line should be about Scotch. Great. how will it know that? It might just crawl everything. So for every single individual, maybe you have a highly personalized approach for this. Again, I think it opens a lot of very interesting avenues. Today, that's not really possible. You can do it at scale, but it's fairly expensive to do that. But again, now we're just thinking even 3 years from now, whatever costs $1 today to do, it'll cost fractions of a penny. In which case, again, I think it unlocks a lot of new use cases, in particular with voice. And I think we're starting to see that today. I think that is the biggest uptake, voice and video. But I think we're closer with voice to really mimic, the conversational style and being able to have useful conversation. A real example I was playing around with. I have all the tech at home, Alexa's, Siri, you name it. But I was playing with ChatGPT, the new voice mode that they have. I was playing with that with my 3-year-old son, and you can literally ask ChatGPT in voice mode to change itself to a caretaker that is going to tell someone whatever stories you want in whatever topics. And so I literally had just watching him interact with ChatGPT, where it was creating a story, interacting with him based on what he wanted to hear. Because he read all the books, and I was like, all right, let's give ChatGPT a try. And that was fascinating and completely sort of normal interaction for him. It was extremely normal, and he could just have the conversation as, oh, and then what happened? Or what about the bunny and other sort of characters in the story? And it really focused on that and made it hyper personalized, all in real time, all for, again, pennies on the dollar, right? And so as we think about what will even learning look like in classrooms, right? And how do we think about, should we be using AI in those cases? Do you not? How do we assess people going forward? I think a lot of really interesting questions that we don't have good answers for, that we need to grapple with just beyond the marketing and sales. But I think, it starts there, because those are revenue drivers. Those are connectors for most people, and it's a microcosm for the rest of society.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating. You talk about learning with a 3-year-old. I could imagine that could go, all the way through all of your learning, but you could easily have that interaction, that high energy and interest. I think is the other challenge, is then keeping them interested, but then also slide in a couple of facts that, during the story. And, oh, by the way, what's 2 + 2 or whatever it happens to be. And that is really fascinating. I'm going to have to check out the voice mode. I haven't done that yet, so I definitely will do that. That'll be pretty good.
It's my favorite way to use AI, actually, by the way, is as a learning aid. Like a few weeks ago, I couldn't sleep, and I spent 4 hours talking to ChatGPT, trying to understand some like weird quantum mechanics nuance. And no human teacher would possibly have spent that much time listening to me ask stupid questions that I'm not really qualified to be asking anyways. But then eventually after 4 hours, it's, oh, I see what you understand wrong. The word force is used here in one way, the word force is used here in another way. And it really helped me understand. So I think that if you go back to the Jeff Bezos quote, we don't make money when we sell things. We make money when we help people make purchase decisions. And we think about the whole concept of inbound marketing and educating people, the last kind of 15 years of business. That's going to be a really interesting application of AI, is how can you use it to teach your customers and your prospects better?
Yeah. And that gets into kind of like my next question, which is the competitive edge and how AI can provide a competitive edge. One of the things that I've seen with banking, for example, we've had a couple of clients with banking. Some of the clients have turned off AI totally within the organization because of the regulatory and the risk and whatever. And okay, fair enough, there is risk and stuff like that. But some of the in other banks that are competing with that one, they have not turned it off. They have it on. And so from a marketing and a sales and marketing perspective, they are, just because of their internal perceptions of governance and regulations, they are going to then grow much faster because they're not going to have to, I don't know, spend as much, or they're going to be a lot more flexible, or going to be a lot more personalized in their sales and marketing. And that I think is one fascinating aspect of AI. And I'm sure you guys have a handful of other ones. Andrei, I don't know, maybe why don't you go first on that?
Yeah, no, I think the challenge there is to have the right level of constraints from the very beginning, and really thinking about that, not just putting all your data in and hoping for the best, hoping that it's compliant, hoping that it's not going to hallucinate because they have to. That's a feature, it's not a bug. So how do you constrain that, right? What level of human intervention should you have maybe the probability that it's correct is below a certain level. These are all things that can be defined, right? Things that we can control. But I think it's the challenges is in one, thinking about data and thinking about that footprint and thinking about those outcomes proactively, not reactively. But I also think that the most important asset for all these companies going forward, the differentiation, is increasingly not going to be the technology. Now it's commoditized. Now your competition can get it for the same price, and it's a race. It's a race to the bottom, similar to what we had with compute and in the .com boom and making it easier to get online, faster to build these technology companies and applications and such. Same thing will happen with AI. It's already happening. Your only differentiation is then going to be your data and how clean is your data. How well understood is it? How does it align with what you're trying to do as a business? If you're a bank, you're one of hundreds of banks. How are you providing a differentiated service? How are you providing different kinds of financial products and services for different kinds of users? I think that can create, using analytics and looking at your data, you can create a lot of business benefits. You can see, what, we do have this untapped need. How do we tap that even faster than what used to take us years? Maybe now it takes 2 months or weeks. So again, I think I'm highly optimistic that it can create a lot of value, forcing us to think about the data, forcing us to think about our assumptions and the business models, and then looking at how do we solve those things faster, or at least answer questions much faster and then decide. That I think is a real differentiator. But it really starts with the data. And if there's no thinking about the data strategically, then many companies are going to find themselves out of business because you're not thinking about how we're going to leverage AI, and it needs data. It needs to be labeled, it needs to be clean, it needs to be duplicated, all these concerns, regulatory, there's a lot of issues. How do you anonymize that sort of customer data if you're using it for maybe customer service or sales, or you need to think about those privacy elements proactively, not before it leaks something by accident, because it will happen. We even have legal precedents now set where if your AI gives a discount on your company's behalf, I think it was a travel company where the AI said someone convinced the AI, and you can convince it, you can prompt, you can have a conversation, and if you're really good at it, you can say, "Yep, I should get 100% discount." "Oh, you're right, you should get 100% discount on this flight." Great. That's been upheld in courts of law. And so whatever that AI says, now you're legally liable for in a customer service conversation. You should be very careful about that end objective and how it's thinking about it.
Yeah, interesting. I like your point about data being a differentiator. That it has some interesting implications for legacy companies versus new companies. The legacy companies have all of this old data, and it's maybe poorly labeled or poorly organized or whatever. Whereas if you have a totally new company and it's got its own data structures and they're all nice and clean, and if they built out the company, they are probably going to be much more effective and much more competitive than the legacy companies for that reason, because they just have to suffer through that data set and the structures that they've got. Sam, what have you got what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so the reason I was chuckling, when I teach, I talk about like two main drivers of human behavior are fear and greed. So from the fear side, I get it because we've seen this movie before. Remember when social media came out and all the brands are like, wait, people can just say whatever they want about us in front of everybody else. And same with reviews. And we had to explain to people what a search engine was before we could like get them to do SEO. This isn't a new phenomenon. The fear of kind of losing control over things, it's not something that comes naturally to marketers. But the flip side, to go to the greed side, the HubSpot CMO had a quote on his podcast about how it's never been more profitable to be curious right now. Google got sucker punched by a nonprofit research firm. If that can happen to Google, imagine like whoever the 800-pound gorilla is in your industry, like whoever's listening to this right now, if a nonprofit research firm can sucker punch Google to the point where they call a code red, stop everything they're doing, it's all these like strategic moves, like the whole technology landscape has shifted in the last 2 years. And they did, it's not because now they're raising a bunch of money, but at the time, that's not what they were doing. And so it's created this ability to have this kind of asymmetric power where very small teams, again, because I can do lightweight engineering and lightweight data analysis and creating cash flow forecasts, all this stuff that I like couldn't do without more people on my own. All that is now in the hands of people who can be more agile. So the very large organizations who are I understand the concern, but there are also a bunch of nerds like Andrei who are figuring out how to do these things in a secure way and edge computing and all the ways to like make it privacy centric. I'm far less concerned, with the exception of like national security data, HIPAA data, and stuff like that. I'm far less concerned about the potential downsides and far more interested in the potential upsides. If you are the 800-pound gorilla in the room, you have the advantage of data, you have the advantage of reach and distribution, you have the disadvantage of you're probably not going to get anything done because you're going to have 6 months of meetings about scheduling meetings to come up with a cross-functional strategic initiative to do this. Meanwhile, 3 people are deploying it now and eating your lunch. But if you think about whether you want to be motivated to hide your head in the sand or do something with AI, this checks both boxes, fear and greed. You can 10x, it's your greatest chance to 10x your company's value or have it fall to 1/10 of what it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's so funny that you mentioned the big gorilla. When you're a small company, you're so afraid of what they're going to do. And those guys are sitting there trying to schedule a meeting.
Exactly. Yeah, take advantage of that. This is never a greater opportunity to sucker punch the gorillas since maybe the dawn of the internet. The internet created some huge advantages where you didn't have to have
Yeah.
the real estate footprint of a Walmart, of a Macy's, et cetera, in order to be competitive. Obviously, now those are relegated to distant followers of companies like Amazon. And AI is going to be the same. So be smart about it. We all know that feeding classified documents to an online cloud system is probably not a great idea. But if you have good people, you've got good training, everybody's got good incentives that are aligned, it's very similar to how we do cybersecurity training in general, right? Don't click the email that pretends to be from the CEO that says, please download this file and fill it out with our credit card information. Like, use good judgment. And then other than that, unleash your team, let them go do stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Man, oh man, that's those are some great examples, and I wish I could keep going. I do have one last question for you, though, and that is, what advice would you give a new up-and-coming marketer as they try now to get into the field of marketing, just coming out of college, and here they are, they're ready to take on the world, and yet now they've got AI, or we have AI, and what advice would you give them?
I know there tends to be the like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail kind of phenomenon. But this does very much remind me of the early days of my career, right? So I was a college dropout with no real experience, built a website called hiremehubspot.com to get hired at HubSpot, ended up teaching at Harvard. I'm a faculty chair at the school I dropped out of, University of South Florida, Tampa. And all of that's because nobody was teaching this stuff, the internet marketing, mobile marketing, social media. Nobody was teaching at the university level at the time. And so it didn't matter that I didn't follow that normal path because I could go faster than everybody else. And I wasn't bound by knowing the right way. So I could find arguably more interesting ways. Still very much the same thing. Andrei and I don't know the future. And I've stopped trying, frankly, to even predict relatively near term outcomes. And nobody else does. Your professors don't. The CEO of the company where you're getting your internship at, they don't know it either. And it keeps reminding me of that quote from the TV show Game of Thrones: chaos is a ladder, right? The only people who like a nice stable ladder are the people who are at the top of it. If you're coming and starting a marketing career right now, you're at the bottom of the ladder, shake the ladder. Use AI, do all this stuff, like leapfrog ahead, and then and all the people with all their money and experience and everything else like that won't be able to come up against you.
Wow, I really like that. Shake the ladder. I really like the that commercial. I'm going to claw my way up to middle management.
Yeah, no one wants to do that.
That's right. Andrei, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, my advice would, and I give the same advice to recent computer science graduates, right? I think the world is changing so much that you have to lean in, you have to use all these tools. You have to try them. It doesn't mean it's part of your daily routine. Try them, see what they can do for you, and don't give up, right? I think, yeah, they're like anything new, it's confusing, it's weird, it's borderline dangerous, and depending how you use it, I think you have to be careful. It's a very powerful tool, but also have to keep in mind that your competition is likely using it. Every single day, you're going to have people who may not be able to move as fast as you, maybe they haven't had that experience and now can move a lot faster. Maybe they figured out the right AI or AIs to use. I use, just because of the nature of what I do, I have AI agents doing a whole bunch of work for me every single day, from research to analysis. I even have an AI agent that screenshots my whole computer screen every 3 seconds and summarizes it so that I can invoice faster. I don't do invoices. My AI does it for me, right? All those little things add up, and it can really drive a level of efficiency that, or really self-reflection. Am I wasting my time on the internet too much? Again, some of that can be dangerous, and if you're not ready for it, but I think it's helpful. It's helpful in your growth journey. It's helpful in your learning journey, and it's helpful in your work journey. And if you don't do it, if you don't at least try it and think about it and be open-minded, your competition is using it and you're going to fall behind.
Yeah.
Just to illustrate very clearly that we do understand why people are nervous about this, I didn't know that's how Andrei does his invoices. And as the person in charge of tracking all of the cash flow and expenditures for Agent.ai, I had a tiny heart attack about 14 seconds ago, but it was immediately overcome by the fact of, do I really care whether Andrei's like invoice tracking is plus or minus 10% fidelity because AI induced mistakes, versus the fact that he doesn't have to worry about that and can spend his time focusing on higher impact stuff.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you're worried about that, I get it, but the pros are going to outweigh the cons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's those that making it secure, making it's all local, it's not going over the internet, all those different things. But again, you need to think about how you're using those tools, because it does give you superpowers. To me, that gives me hours of time back every month that I would rather I'm more effective and I can actually bill instead of
the most valuable person, the most valuable person in the company. What can I do to save even a couple of minutes every day? And it adds up and really comes out to be incredibly important. Anyway, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, Sam, Andrei. So where can they reach you to find out more information on your company and on what you guys are doing?
So the downside to having the name Mallikarjunan, it's hard to pronounce. The upside is Googling anything even close to it, you will generally find me. But we did just launch a community at Agent.ai. So if you go to community.agent.ai, we're trying to get everybody there asking questions, sharing ideas, because again, we're not pretending we know all the answers here. And both Andrei and I and Dharmesh and the rest of our team are all very active there.
Fantastic. Agent.ai and then community.agent.ai. Fantastic. We'll definitely put that on the website and on the blog and then go from there. Again, thank you so much. And for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing and AI. And if you'd like to, please go to marketingmachine.prorelevant.com and download some excerpts of my current book, Post-COVID Marketing Machine, and then also learn some more about my future book called AI Marketing Machine. Again, thanks so much and really appreciate it. And we'll be talking soon, I hope.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thanks,